Supposed to be a very easy topic only. There will not be any problem in understanding this chapter. So caste system, very important one also. You will get short notes like some short notes which are expected from here is first is Sanskritization, and you already have some idea about this. Secondly, dominant caste. Okay, and then apart from this, these two are coming from MN Srinivas only. Apart from this, simply they can ask you GS Ghurye perspective on caste system, or the features of caste system according to GS Ghurye, or the features of caste system for MN Srinivas, or the perspective on caste system by GS Ghurye, the perspective on caste system by MN Srinivas, Louis Dumont, okay, Andre Bette. All these can be the questions which can be asked from this particular chapter. Apart from that, untouchability can be asked. What are the different forms in which it is practiced? Okay, contemporary examples you need to add over there. Okay, whatever you see, current examples you need to add. Okay, and then what are the different perspectives to deal with this? So this is what we need to discuss in this chapter. So when we discuss about caste system, primarily we talk from mainly macro view. The main division is macro, that is the first part, and then we will try to see the caste in micro. So when we discuss about macro understanding of caste, we will only talk about, or we are more interested in understanding this in terms of Varna. Okay, Varna means we are talking about Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So this is the four Varnas, and those who are not part of this, they are the Avarna, right? The Dalits, okay, or the untouchables. Different names they are known for. So Brahmins, they perform the ritual occupation, they perform the rituals, and they do the intellectual works. So that is the job associated to Brahmins. Kshatriyas, they are the warriors, and they are dealing with power and protection. So they are dealing with power and protection. So here Brahmins dealing with ritual work or intellectual work. Vaishyas, they are basically the traders. Okay, so they actually active in economic domain like business, traders, etc. Shudras, okay, so service providers. Shudras are the service providers. So this is actually the Varna scheme. But nowadays, if you see, is there any such order which is practiced? Even the Brahmins are also doing trading, or thus they are also the service providers. Even the Brahmins are also carpenters. Okay, so that kind of clear-cut division you cannot see in the modern society. That we need to see in social change aspect. Okay, so here towards the end of this answer, when you're writing in modern society, what is caste also you need to understand. The power structure is changing. The role that they are doing is actually diffused. Brahmins are doing this kind of occupation, and Shudras are also doing intellectual work, right, etc. But still some things are continued, right? So for example, I don't remember in which state, when the chief minister visited a temple, after the visit of the chief minister, even there was a purification ceremony which was conducted. Okay, so still this is practiced in certain area, even at the level of chief minister also. If it is there, means it is a clear-cut example of untouchability. Okay, so it is related to purity and pollution. So this is at the macro level understanding of caste. Now when we talk about micro level understanding, we will try to see the caste in terms of its specific features. So first one you can see, now see these features we will discuss in detail with respect to GS Ghurye also, but in general what are the features I will discuss here. So you will see hierarchy. Okay, so there will be a ritual hierarchy. Firstly, mostly ritual hierarchy, like Brahmins at the top, because they are the most pure. So this hierarchy is actually based on purity and impurity, right? Purity and pollution. So Brahmins at the top and Shudras at the bottom, and beyond that it is Dalits. So like Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So this is a hierarchy which is maintained. Now Dalits, they are the untouchables. So Shudras consider Dalits as the untouchable. Similarly, Vaishyas consider Shudras are also, they maintain a sense of distance. Okay, and Brahmins maintain a sense of distance from Vaishyas also. Like this, when you go above the order, they maintain a sense of distance. So who is more pure? More pure is the Brahmins. So who is more polluted? The Dalits. Okay, so this is based on purity and pollution. This hierarchy is there. So this is a ritual hierarchy. So when you talk about the change, you will say that nowadays ritual hierarchy is not that important. Rather, secular hierarchy is more important because of reservation, because of open education, because of mass education, government efforts, constitution, rule of law, equality before law. The Dalits and the Shudras, after the recommendation of Mandal Commission, Shudras are getting benefits. Otherwise also Shudras, because of educational advancements, they are getting the employment. So the caste mobility may not be there at the ritual level, they may be the same, but at the secular dimension means not this ritual level, like in terms of money, in terms of employment, government employment, etc. So these people are getting mobility. So that nowadays ritual hierarchy is not that significant, secular hierarchy is more important. Rather, in easy way I can say caste is not more important, class is more important. Okay, so within the same class itself, those who follow the same lifestyle, you can see Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they all be together. For example, if you talk about an IPS officer group itself, if they are in a party, there are different IPS officers from Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they all will drink together, they all will discuss, and they will all have interaction, right? There is no such ritual hierarchy is dominating over there. It is a secular hierarchy which matters over there. Okay, so that is related to hierarchy. I hope you understood. Apart from this, this hierarchy, you can also talk about Sanskritization here. Dominant caste is also a concept. Okay, so it is not necessarily. What is dominant caste? I will discuss in short time. Dominant caste means it is not necessary that the Brahmins are always dominant. Some other caste can also be dominant, provided they have to satisfy certain conditions. The conditions are like they should have land, they should have numerical strength so that they can capture the power, they should have education, or they should have government employment. So all these are the conditions which has to be satisfied, so that it is not necessary that the Brahmins will be dominant. The other caste can also be dominant in a particular area. For example, Jats. Okay, the other caste like Kammas, Reddis, Lingayats. So different examples you will see, and I will also discuss in this session itself. So that is what dominant caste. So this hierarchy that you see in the cultural hierarchy or the ritual hierarchy is not that significant nowadays. Okay, that is the first point. Now the second point is actually related to this caste based occupation. That also we have anyway covered here, caste based occupation. So Brahmins are doing intellectual work, right? So Kshatriyas are doing the work related to power, protection, etc. The right Shudras are the service providers, and Vaishyas are the traders. Now that's the second feature. Third is one more important one, that is related to endogamy. Okay, so when we talk about like Brahmins as a Varna group and Kshatriya as another Varna group, or for your understanding you can also take it as caste. It is actually Varna. This is Varna because there are different castes within this. Shaivas are there, Vaishnavas are there within Brahmins, right? So there are different other castes, subcaste, sub-subcaste, gotras, different divisions are there, you can see. So this Brahmins, you have to marry from within. That's what you mean by endogamy. Kshatriyas, you have to marry from within. That's what endogamy. But there will be different gotras, right? Gotras, subcaste. So they are the descendants. You know what do you mean by descent? Descent means it is based on ancestor. So when I am saying descendant of the common ancestor means the members in this group consider one same person as their ancestor, and they trace identity from that person. So you should not marry from this group, rather you should marry outside. That is what you call as gotra exogamy. This is something which we have discussed under marriage rules in India. Here what I want to tell you is caste, the features of caste. What is that? Endogamy. Okay, so we practice endogamy in caste. Then fourth one, if you see, restrictions on feeding and social intercourse. Restriction on feeding, like what type of food to be given, pakka food or kacha food. So some community you will give a cooked food, some community you don't give the cooked food, raw food you will give. So restriction on feeding and social intercourse, the sense of distance that you need to maintain, all these will come here. Okay, and then you have next feature, you can see civil and religious disability. So when you talk about civil disability means what are the civil disability? Like you may not be allowed to go through a particular road. You are not allowed to travel through a particular road through which the Brahmins and the upper caste is going. You should go through some other different route. Similarly, you may not be allowed to use the well. Okay, like that. These are civil disability. Religious disability means you are not allowed to enter into the temple, right? The Hindu temple is not allowed for the untouchables. All these, this is what you mean by religious disability. So you can write their temple entry movement, okay, Vaikam Satyagraha, all these are against this only. So these are the main features. Apart from that, one more, social mobility. Is mobility allowed or not? Mobility is not allowed. Why? It is actually a closed system. So you should be knowing what you mean by closed system, what is mobility, etc. So it's a closed system. Avenues are very less, but I have discussed 2-3 avenues here in caste system. One is Sanskritization, but nowadays you cannot see this because of the post-independence India advancements and the benefits are offered to the Dalits, as well as after Mandal Commission report acceptance of that even to the Shudras also. So there is no such concept of Sanskritization now. But nowadays mobility can be seen in terms of hypergamy, okay, and hypogamy, or anuloma and pratiloma. Hyper means you are marrying a man who is at the higher caste. Hypo means lower caste. Okay, so this lead to downward mobility and this lead to upward mobility. So hypergamy means like Brahmin women and Kshatriya Brahmin men, Kshatriya women. So Kshatriya women marry a Brahmin men. So this is upward mobility because women's status is connected with the husband, right? Similarly, Brahmin women marry a Kshatriya men. So what will happen? This is a downward mobility. Why? The woman's status is connected with the husband. So he is at the Kshatriya level only. So this is downward mobility. So this is also known as pratiloma. This is known as anuloma. Prati, you can see it in a negative language, right? So that is what downward mobility, pratiloma. Hyper, going up, anuloma. Okay, so you don't want to have any confusion here. So that's about caste system, and that's what you need to know about caste. So let's go through the PDF and we will see what all things are there. So it divides society into 4 groups, Varnas based on the birth, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. 5th group, okay, which falls outside the Varna system is the Avarna or the outcast or the untouchables. While Varna is a macro conception, caste or Jati is actually the ground reality. So what is actually seen in reality is related to caste or Jati. Caste is an okay, again this is also the other way in which you can define. It is an endogamous group. Endogamous means you have to marry within. Caste is an endogamous group having an independent culture and structural existence. Subcaste, which are endogamous, okay, and Gotras, which are exogamous. Why Gotra is exogamous? Because you consider yourself as the descendants of a common ancestor. So all the members in that particular Gotra are the descendants of a common ancestor. So there is a possibility that you will be connected by blood. So blood connected members are not allowed to marry. Okay, now caste can be understood structurally as well as culturally. When it comes to culture, culturally means it's a system of beliefs, values, practices associated with a particular strata. Like Brahmins are dealing with this kind of jobs, right? Ritual occupation, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. These are related to beliefs. Structurally, okay, Ghurye and M.N. Srinivas understood in cultural terms. Structurally means it is actually the exact pattern of interrelated structure along with interaction among the various caste on the basis of various disabilities and restriction. So culturally means what you see in the book, what is expected. Structurally means what is really practiced, what is actually the ground reality. It also studies actual power relation between caste groups and inequalities thereof. So you can see Andre Bette, Dibangar Gupta are belong to this perspective. Now 3 features which is given by Bogle. Bogle has identified 3 core features. Heredity, okay, like heredity, it is transformed from one to other, parent to children. Heredity, occupation, and hierarchy. Okay, so hierarchy is there. Occupation is passed from previous generation to the next generation, obviously, like that. Similarly, Ghurye identified 6 features. That 6 features I will discuss soon. When we discuss about Ghurye separately, I will discuss that. Apart from this, two broad perspective, attributional and interactional perspective. Ghurye and Srinivas belong to attributional perspective. Attributional perspective means trying to understand caste on the basis of various attributes. Attributes means what? Features. Like that's what we have written here. Bogle identified these 3 features. Ghurye identified 6 features. So Ghurye's perspective, when we see, it is attributional. So you will try to see that features. Before also I have talked about different features, right? Otherwise, interactional perspective. Interactional perspective takes into account how caste are actually ranked with respect to one another in a local empirical context. This is a reality, okay? Empirical reality. Interactional perspective. Now G.S. Ghurye on caste system. So you can read his books and everything here. He has examined caste from a historical, indological, comparative and integrative perspective. So mainly we need to talk about this because we already know Ghurye is the father of Indology and he mainly focused on Indology. According to him, caste and kinship in India has played an integrative role. Okay, so now Herbert Risley come up with some understanding. So he to an extent support that also. What he says is superior race is the superior caste. Herbert Risley, what he's saying is it is related to anthropological understanding, was a main proponent of the dominant view that caste must have originated in the race because different caste groups seem to belong to distinct racial types. Okay, so in general, the highest caste approximated Indo-Aryan racial traits, while the lower caste seem to belong to non-Aryan, aboriginals, Mangaloid or other racial groups. So what Ghurye did is, Ghurye did not completely disagree with this. Okay, so he said somewhat it is correct. So he put forward, or he did not agree completely but believed it to be only partially correct. So Ghurye went with an extent that it is partially correct. Ghurye believed that Risley's thesis of the upper caste being Aryan and the lower caste being non-Aryans was broadly true in northern part of India. So in case of northern India, it is mostly true. In other parts of India, the intergroup difference in the anthropometric measurements were not very large or systematic. In South India, you cannot make that kind of distinction. According to him, the whole Indian society is caste-based and even tribes are also part of the system as opposed to Western notion that the tribes and caste are two different concepts. So this we have discussed when we discussed about tribes, and I have told you at that time, Ghurye considered tribes as backward Hindus. So he generally follow a Hinduized approach. His approach is towards glorifying Hinduism, etc. Because most of the Indologists do that only, glorifying the Indian culture. Indian culture is basically Hindu culture. So glorifying Hindu culture. So he called tribes as backward Hindus, and if you remember, I have discussed about 3 criteria, right? Backward Hindus and partially Hinduized tribes, hill sections. So these are the 3 different idea that he proposed, who are at various levels of assimilation to Hinduism. So he actually even opposed that colonial view of isolating the tribes. There is no need to isolate because they are actually part of Hindu system. And he is talking about 6 features. So if the question is about attributional approach of Ghurye, what you need to write? You need to stress on the attributes. What are the attributes? Attributes are nothing but the features. So what are the features? These are the features. First, you will see segmental division. Okay, so the caste is divided, right? It is closed group and mutually exclusive segments or compartments. So you cannot enter, if you belong to Kshatriya compartment, you cannot enter into Brahmin compartment, right? These are mutually exclusive. So if you are born in Brahmins, you will end as Brahmins. There is no mobility, it is closed. Okay. Similarly, hierarchical division. So there is a hierarchy which is based on ritual. It is a ritual hierarchy. It is based on purity and pollution. Restriction on feeding and social intercourse we have discussed in general. Civil and religious disabilities, that also we have discussed. Restrict the choice of occupation. For example, caste decides the occupation that you are supposed to perform by birth. You're born as a Shudra, you have to go for service provider. You're born as a Brahmin, you will be doing the intellectual work, ritual work, etc. Caste endogamy is another feature that he's talking about, and Ghurye only talked about this rules, marriage rules extensively, like exogamy, that is related to clan or gotra. Okay, changing pattern of caste system. Okay, he also analyzed the changing pattern of caste system and has opined that it will diminish with rise of modern education. So he is clear that if modern education, with the development of modern education, the caste system will obviously diminish. The importance of caste will come down. The ritual hierarchy may give way to secular hierarchy, or the caste will give way to class. Caste, but at the same time, he also admit that caste-based social and political organizations are developing, right? Because of vote bank politics and everything. Vote bank politics means mobilization on the basis of caste, identity politics. So because of all this, what is the reason why still caste is surviving? Caste is surviving because of 2-3 reasons, mainly endogamy that you are following, but that to an extent is almost gone. Endogamy now in marriage, caste is not that significant, but the other 2 reasons is, one is politics, mobilization of people masses on the basis of caste, and second one is reservation. Because of these 2, forget about marriage. Marriage is losing its significance in terms of caste these days. Class is more important. Okay, so that is there. And now these are criticisms. He tried to glorify culture of India, Hindu-centric view. All these are criticisms that you can just read and you will understand. Okay. So I have underlined all the important points that has to be there in your answer. Apart from that, whatever it is underlined here, try to incorporate in your answer. So when we talk about M.N. Srinivas, 2 important concepts we need to discuss, that is Sanskritization and dominant caste. Okay, so what is Sanskritization? Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So among this, Brahmins are considered superior. But what the Shudra or the Dalits, they cannot do this. They will not do this also. The non-Dalits from these sections, these 3, they can actually follow the characteristics of Brahmins. Like Shudra, they will migrate to some other area and they will imitate the Brahmins, like vegetarianism, non-alcoholism, etc. Right? So they follow those practices which is done by the Brahmins, and they will improve the caste status. If not in this generation, next generation they will become Brahmins. Right? So this is what Sanskritization. You try to imitate it is not necessarily Brahmin. For example, the area that you are migrating, if Kshatriyas are dominant caste there, you will try to become a member of dominant caste. Now, don't you think this is an application of reference group theory only? So it is basically criticized on this aspect. His concept of Sanskritization is nothing but the application of reference group. See here, what is a reference group? Your reference group is Brahmins, and you try to become one among that, and you are trying to do that. Or sometimes it may be Kshatriyas, because if Kshatriyas are dominant in particular area when you are migrating, you try to become Kshatriya over there. Okay, so or Vaishya also. So this is what Sanskritization. So he had a segmentary view on caste, what we have discussed already in case of Ghurye also. He made it clear distinction between Varna and Jati. According to Srinivas, Varna is a macro theoretical schema, whereas caste or Jati is an all India phenomena defining empirical reality. So the caste is what actually the empirical reality. Varna is actually defined on the basis of culture or which is there in Manusmriti. The concentration on Varna also meant stressing the ritual fact. Okay, that you can read. Yeah, these are the attributes according to. Each caste and subcaste has certain common attributes like hierarchy, right? This is common. Occupational differentiation. Different caste will perform different occupation. Restrictions on feeding and intercourse. Purity, pollution, concept, etc. Hierarchy, according to him, is the core of the caste, and caste structure is guided by 2 hierarchies. Okay, one is ritual hierarchy and the other is secular hierarchy. This is very important for you. So when we talk about hierarchy here, he divides this into secular and ritual. So when we talk about Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they are superior when we are saying this is based on ritual hierarchy. So this is based on ritual hierarchy. Ritually Brahmins are superior. But secular hierarchy, if you see with the modern education and all, even the Shudras can also be at the top position. Okay, so modern day secular hierarchy is more dominant. So you can see here, ritual hierarchy is manifested in dressing, rules of segregation, rules of eating, etc. Secular hierarchy is manifested in power, wealth, education, etc. According to him, mobility in secular hierarchy is very much possible because of migration, ownership of land, government jobs, etc. Okay, mobility in secular hierarchy is very much possible. Okay, and Sanskritization is also possible. According to him, caste system is not as rigid depicted by historians. Why he is saying it is not rigid, but you can see the instances of Sanskritization. What Ghurye says, what historians says, what Indologists says is, these are cultural phenomena and it is defined by Manusmriti. You cannot change your caste. You by birth you are born in caste and it is closed system, right? But that's not the case. He explained that through the two concepts. Sanskritization, one I have already explained. The second is dominant caste. So in dominant caste, what he's saying is it is not necessary that the Brahmins are dominant in all the situations. It can be some other caste who can be dominant if they possess certain factors. These are the factors. If you need to become dominant caste, economic and political factors are there. You should be able to capture the political power. Numerical strength should be there. Fairly high place in local hierarchy, education, government jobs, etc. Okay. So that's about M.N. Srinivas concept. That too is very important. You just go through it. So here André Bette and Louis Dumont is there. Just read that. If you are not able to understand, I will discuss. Anyway, I will update that in the application. That two perspectives separately, I will do that. Now, I will go for features of caste system. Next topic. So main features we have already discussed. Principle of purity and pollution. Okay. So main feature is actually principle of purity and pollution. That is the foremost feature of caste system. 6 features have been defined by Ghurye, so that you need to add from the previous discussion. So 6 features which has been defined by Ghurye. What are the 6 features? You can see here from Ghurye's discussion, you need to add that 6 features. These 6 features, okay? So segmental division, and then hierarchical division, restriction on feeding and social intercourse, civil and religious disabilities, okay, restriction on choice of occupation, caste endogamy. So you can also write 3 features which is given by Bogle, right, where we discuss that here. So Bogle has identified 3 core features: heredity, occupation and hierarchy. So already you got 2 thinkers. Apart from that, general, I have given you in the beginning of this discussion, we have discussed about features, right? So yeah, so first one, hierarchy. Srinivas also identified hierarchy. In Srinivas also we have seen that. Okay, so hierarchy, then caste based occupations. So according to K.M. Panikar, Nandas were the last true Kshatriyas. See, it's like this, what we are saying is Kshatriyas means they are supposed to deal with power and everything, but nowadays that is not necessarily the case. That things have been changed. So if you see the Kshatriyas, the actual Kshatriyas, Nandas were the actual Kshatriyas, right? They ruled. After that, do you think now the Kshatriyas are ruling? No, right? Are they possessing the power? No, they are not possessing the power. The Brahmins are completely not at the top also. So it is totally diffused. It is because of modernization, it is because of rationalization, it is because of modern education, it is because of constitution, it is because of law. All those things are actually factors of that. So these are changes. But when we discuss about features, just focus on features. And then caste endogamy and gotra exogamy. Okay, there is no need to have any doubt there. Feeding and social restriction on feeding. Restrictions here. Feeding and social intercourse. The feeding means related to eating food, like interdining is prohibited. Kacha food and pakka food, cooked food and non-cooked food, right? Raw food you have to give to some community, some cooked food you have to give, like that. Civil and religious disability, social mobility aspect. It is considered as closed system, but nowadays you can talk about dominant caste, Sanskritization, etc. in your answer. Segmental organization, okay, common name, common descent. So these are the main features of the caste system. So if you get a question on features of caste system, you can write from Ghurye, you can write from Bogle, you can write from M.N. Srinivas. Apart from that, you can write in general, these are the features. Okay, so this has also led caste group nowadays emerging as interest groups. Okay, so see here, caste, many features are actually diluted because of urbanization, secularization, etc., modernization and all. Caste based political parties are emerging, rule of law is prominent now because of fundamental rights, and all this right against exploitation, because of this caste is actually coming down. Interest group is emerging, right?